Hi, and welcome to Across the Desk. This week, I want to talk about new bills that are going into the legislature this year that they're going to talk about in 2020. There's a couple of them that I want to go over that are kind of kooky, and one that changes the medical marijuana law a little bit, something I agree with on one part, something I don't on another. But that's what this show's all about, and please subscribe to the channel. Now, the bill I want to go over is House Bill 2779, and it's being authored by Representative Olson. I'll put his information on the screen. Now, Mr. Olson, he is the representative of a district out in eastern Oklahoma, and I'll show you that. And as you can see, this is a pretty good swath of rural land and a couple of small towns just north of the I-40 area. Now, what Mr. Olson wants to do is change a couple of provisions of this. Now, the first thing he wants to do, it seems like he wants to clean up some of the language, maybe a little bit of redundancy that's in there. So, and I'll show you that part, put it on the screen here. And as you can see, the underlined part is the part he wants to add. That's the amended part. And the part that you see that is lines through it, well, that's the part they want to strike. As I read this, at first I had to read through it a couple times to see exactly what they're saying. But it seems like this just cleans up some language is what it does, because you do have some redundancy with number 1 and some of the stuff in number 2 that was in there now. So it seems like he just wants to clean up some of that language so that we're really clear on it, and that's a good thing. Now, the second part of this bill that they want to change, I really have a problem with. I'm going to go ahead and give you a part of this on the screen right now. And as you can see, the underlined part is the new part of the law they want, which really it says that a medical marijuana establishment should be prohibited within 1,000 feet of any place of worship. And they're not talking about just any place of worship. They're also going on to talk about buildings, structures, facilities, office space, leased or rented or borrowed on a full-time basis. And when it goes to section 2 down there, if you read, it also says permanent structures, facilities, office space, leased, rented, or borrowed on temporary. So pretty much anything they do that's permanent or temporary, if it's a lease or if it's not a lease, they want to ban it within 1,000 feet. Well, I can see a lot of different places where this could be abused and will be abused. I'm almost positive that is the purpose of this law, is to abuse it. There's no other reason. It's not like you can go to a dispensary and use the marijuana there. You can't. There's a law against that. You can't even do it in public out front. Now, I get it. You don't want a bar close to it, house of worship. I really don't understand that either. I mean, if your religion is and your religious convictions are so weak that you can't allow a medical facility within 1,000 feet of it, well, there's something wrong with you. There's not something wrong with those people. There's nothing wrong with you, and maybe you should look into getting a medical marijuana license. Yeah, that second provision that they want to add to the medical marijuana law as it currently stands, I just don't see a lot of public will for that. And this is one of those places where you see time and again the conservatives in their linear, one-dimensional thinking not taking in the will of the people. When you've got a law that passed by 67% of the people, you really want to jack with it, because it's going to harm you. It's going to come back to bite you. I guarantee you. Every political and military strategist will always tell you, you got to go with the will of the people. You have to. If you go against that, they're gonna hand you your butt. Now, the bill I want to talk about now is House Bill 2781, authored by David Hardin. Now, this guy's pretty radical. If you go to the legislative website and look at all the bills he's authored, they're pretty out there. They're pretty far to the right, and some of them, they get kind of scary. But I'm going to put this one on the board for you so you can get a look and have a chuckle. Anyway, this right here is what it says as introduced. It's an act relating to firearms, creating the Second Amendment Preservation Act, stating findings and declarations considering certain actions and infringing on the right to keep and bear arms, invalidating, not recognizing, or rejecting certain actions by the federal government and state government. Basically, this whole thing says, if you read it, he wants to find the actions of the government, especially when it comes to law enforcement, null and void. Not only that, when it comes to certain gun rights and what police officers do in the line of their duty, he wants to actually prosecute law enforcement for disarming people to make sure that they're safe. This I see as a very anti-law enforcement legislation bill for some guy who's very, very conservative and touts military and I support the police all the time. This bill just doesn't do that, and if you read through it, you're thinking, man, this guy's a kook. The other funny thing about this bill is you can see just how big of a lack of policy making, law, and constitutional just ignorance this guy has. He just doesn't know what he does. As a matter of fact, I mean, the first 4 pages are nothing but a rant. It has no law in it whatsoever. It's just a rant on the overreach of government, whether it be state or federal, how police officers are horrible and taking people's guns away, and what we should do to give criminals back their guns. And that's what this whole thing is. And so that's the whole law. And even at that, the basis of the whole law is just a couple of pages. But he puts in like 5 pages of nothing but ranting in the whole thing. And it's quite almost uncomprehensive. You read through it and you're like, man, this guy, I see the rant, but you make no sense. And you're just going off on things that have no basis in law or policy except for like the last 2 pages. That's it. And that's not the only thing this guy has done. Look at his page. Go look at the other bills he's authored and get a good laugh at what this guy has done, because most of what he does is he puts in a big old diatribe for 4 or 5 pages, and there's no amount of law or policy in it. It's just a guy ranting and, I don't know, wanting to get a pat on the back or some kind of accolade like, yeah, you're right, buddy, you're right. I don't know what he's doing, but he's obviously a guy that doesn't need to be in our legislature. Oh, and here's a bill I want to talk about too that's going to come up in the 2020 legislature. It's House Concurrent Resolution 1009, and basically this is by Kevin West and Dom of the Kevin West of the House and Dom of the Senate. And I've got this on the screen for you so you can see it. It's a concurrent resolution condemning the Congress of the United States for pursuing impeachment proceedings against Donald J. Trump. Now this is really funny because in this, here's another diatribe. There's nothing of policy in it. It's just somebody ranting and being angry that the Congress impeached the president. They go, it's so unconstitutional what they did when the provision for impeachment is in the Constitution. And it's just one big old rant. It does nothing. As a matter of fact, I find a big old fit of irony in here. They talk about, I'm going to put it on the screen right here. They talk about how this is just a big old waste of money and time and taxpayer money that we're doing this, and how much of a waste it is and everything else. But the whole funny thing about it is they're wasting the state's time with this, because this isn't policy. It's not enacting any new legislation or laws or repealing anything else. It's just the people ranting and in putting this out there, taking up time and money of our state to do this, and in a fit of irony saying that it's you guys wasting the money.